Joining us now, Senator Dick Black. Senator Black, Republican, represents the 13th District of Virginia. That's part of Loudoun and Prince William County. He's up for re-election in November, and he's been one of those senators targeted by Terry McAuliffe and all of his money, but he's fighting a good fight. But we had him on today. We're really excited. He did an op-ed over the weekend that you can read in the Pull Elephant blog and some other places, but it was picked up there. But he did an op-ed over the weekend on why this Trans-Pacific Partnership Act is going to be an economic disaster, not only, as we've been saying, for the United States, but for Virginia. Hey, Senator Black, good to have you with us, sir.
Hey, it's great to be with you, and I appreciate the work that you're doing on this. This is a case, another one of these big sellouts of American workers by the global elite, and it stinks. And I'm here to talk about it.
Well, that's why, you know what, Senator, we wanted to have you on. I've been fighting this battle since, I think this goes all the way back to last October is when I first started talking about this. I'd have congressmen, senators on, and they'd say, TPP, what is that? Now it's front and center. But look, it's like I always say, if you liked NAFTA, which you saw 14 million manufacturing jobs get sucked out of the United States, this Trans-Pacific Partnership deal is like NAFTA on Viagra. How do we stop it?
Well, you know, I think we need to start talking about it. One of the things that people just don't know about it, but there's sort of a broad grassroots coalition, which is a very strange group where you're combining some of the labor unions, some of the very left wing groups, and then Tea Party and conservatives on the other hand. Basically, it's kind of a nationalist movement that says, "Hey, wait a minute, we are so fed up with the power elite selling out American workers, and we're just not going to take it." And I think we need to start communicating, and that's what we're doing today.
Senator, how is this affecting our middle class, which seems to be evaporating?
Well, here's the thing. You know, when NAFTA was put into effect, Bill Clinton made the comment. He says, NAFTA means jobs, good jobs. If I didn't believe it, I wouldn't support this agreement. Well, NAFTA meant some jobs. It didn't mean good jobs. It meant low-cost service jobs being exchanged for manufacturing jobs. But what it really meant was that there were these group of globalist mega billionaires who became fabulously wealthy, because every time that you drop the real wage of 1,000 factory workers by $5 an hour or whatever, that goes into somebody's pocket, and typically it's these people who they don't really have an allegiance to the United States. Their allegiance is to themselves and to these gangs of clowns that gather together in places like Davos, Switzerland, where thousands of them fly in on their corporate jets, and they make decisions for the world. And all of those decisions hurt the United States, and all of them hurt American workers.
Well, look, there's no question about it. And you mentioned the global elites. You know, right now, the bottom line is a lot of these people, Senator Black, have no allegiance to America. They don't really care what happens to America. They just keep making money after money after money. And so if the country were to collapse, they'll take their money. They'll simply be part of the elite global class. And it's like a lot of people don't understand this. The other thing I want you to comment on is you get a lot of conservatives that as soon as they hear the word trade, it's like Pavlov's dog. They start frothing at the mouth, and they think they're going to get a treat. But this thing is not trade. It's not free trade. It's managed trade, managed to the disadvantage of the American worker.
Well, this is true. You could look at NAFTA, and if you just look at one side of the ledger, you can say, you know what? We created jobs with NAFTA. And there's truth to that. The problem is that we lost a whole lot more jobs than we made. Anytime that you change the trade agreements, you're going to create a certain number of jobs in this country, and when you're dealing with lower cost labor in other countries, what you're going to do is you're going to create low cost jobs here, and you're going to ship high income jobs there. And that's what's been happening, and it especially affects people who are less educated. But sort of the irony is that when we did NAFTA, the college-educated folks said, well, yeah, it's going to hurt those people with a high school education, but I'm okay because I got a college education. Well, now what we're seeing is high-income, high education jobs being shipped overseas, and suddenly people are saying, hey, wait a minute, this didn't work out quite so well because my job is affected. So it's not just low-income jobs, low education jobs, but it's also the highly educated. They're being impacted in a very significant way. We've got such massive underemployment and unemployment. I know a woman who was an executive for a lifetime, and she couldn't get a job. She had to dumb down her resume so that she could get a job stocking shelves at a grocery store. This is a woman who'd been an executive all of her life. This is the kind of thing we get the low income jobs, and we give up the high income jobs.
This really makes no sense. And as I've been saying for a long time since this debate started, Senator Black, is this is just a global elitist, ongoing, never-ending scour of the globe for slave labor. Look, we're going to get involved in a trade deal with a country like Vietnam that's average wage is 55 cents an hour. For heaven's sake, Senator Black, the Chi-Coms are outsourcing jobs to Vietnam. The Chi-Coms are shifting factories to Vietnam. How does this make any sense?
Well, it doesn't. And, if you look at it, the Chinese economy, their growth rate is plummeting. I mean, there's even talk that they may have some kind of an economic crisis. Well, part of the reason is because they're outsourcing jobs to other countries with lower wages. And, the loser in this game is the country with the highest income. If we were doing a trade deal with Switzerland or with Singapore, no problem. It'd probably work out just fine. But the problem is that our trade agreements are always with low-income countries, and it suppresses wages. Look, John, there was a time when I was growing up. When if you went to work for a company, you kind of expected a pension. In fact, you'd negotiate for it. Right. What kind of pension am I going to get? You don't get pensions anymore. They've done away with pensions because that's one of the first things to go. People want to know, well, what's in my weekly paycheck? Pensions are off. That's when I grow older, I'll need that. But what do I get right now? So it was easy for them to start by slicing these fringe benefits, including pensions, and so now we're stuck. Now the elderly are going to be on the public dole because we don't have pensions for them anymore.
Well, we're just entering into this Walmart-type economy where you got all these low-paying jobs. That's the only growth. I'll give you an example. We got a guy running for state senate, a Democrat. You probably heard of this race in Virginia Beach. Gary McCollum is running against Frank Wagner, and McCollum obviously getting backing from Governor McAuliffe was going to pour a lot of money in this. And here I'll give you an example. McCollum, he was the president of Cox Communications in Virginia. Now, I canceled. I had Cox Cable. I canceled it the day McCollum got in the race. Here's a guy that ran around Virginia with McAuliffe in favor of Medicaid expansion because he's got all these call center workers that they let work 30 or 35 hours. They pay them They pay the minimum wage. They don't give them benefits. They don't give them insurance. And so he's running around the state with Terry McAuliffe trying to get Medicaid expansion expanded, or trying to get Medicaid expansion so he doesn't have to pay his employees health insurance, so the state and the federal government pick it up. I mean, this is the problem. These are the jobs available today, and now you pass this thing, it just exasperates it. I can't for the life of me figure out why any conservative would be in favor of this.
Well, you know, there were insiders from both parties, Democrat and Republican, who had manipulated this Medicaid expansion. Probably one of the greatest things that I've accomplished in my many years in the legislature was to block Medicaid expansion. Now, you need to understand, Medicaid expansion would have put 400,000 Virginians on welfare, and they would have been on the public dole for their health care, where they're not today. And it's just, you know, it's one thing after the other. It's putting people on the dole, taking them out of good jobs, and it's all part of the same overarching theme of enriching this handful of global elites, the mega billionaires, and impoverishing the American workers. And you mentioned before this, these internationalists versus the folks here. John, I fought with 1st Marine Regiment in Vietnam. I flew as a chopper pilot, and then I fought on the ground with the 1st Marines. And I tell you, I bled all over Vietnam. And I laid out in the sun unconscious for loss of blood. And, to me, this country means something more than just a geographic location where people do deals. My loyalty is to the American people, and I'm so fed up with the inner circle of both parties that's willing to sell out the workers. And I appreciate your willingness to speak out on it.
You know what? I really appreciate what you just shared with our audience. We're with Senator Dick Black. He's a Republican, 13th District. That's part of Loudoun and Prince William. State Senator in Virginia, served in Vietnam, Marine veteran. And, it's interesting what you're saying. Your blood in Vietnam, lying unconscious in a rice paddy field, basically fighting for the right of America to be what we are today. And now we're gonna enter this trade deal with the very country that you were in. Who, when was that? That was in 1960s. This is 2015. Vietnam's average worker makes 53.5 cents an hour. I mean, that's the bottom line.
The reason there's such poverty in Vietnam is because the Democrats pulled the stops on aid to the South Vietnamese and deliberately collapsed the defenses and enslaved a nation afterwards. That's what happened in Vietnam. And so we've had a communist government, utter corruption to the core, utter tyranny to the core, and now we're willing to sell out American workers to these people? I don't think so. I mean, I love Vietnamese people, but I despise that government. I mean, that government is loathsome. And but when it comes to the almighty dollar, these guys on Capitol Hill are willing to sell us out to communists, and tyranny doesn't matter to them as long as somebody's pockets are lined. And I was so disappointed with Tim Kaine and Mark Warner, because these guys, their first vote. All of the Democrats voted as a bloc against this TPP, and when I wrote that op-ed that you saw, I said, the Democrat senators voted against this, but the signs are that many of them are simply waiting to see Mr. Green. Once the price is right, they'll change their votes. I didn't even get that to press before they sold out. They had met Mr. Green, and they sold out all of the workers. If I were a member of AFL-CIO, these guys who typically come to campaign against me every few years, I would be furious at Tim Kaine and Mark Warner. And I'd say, look, I've had it. You guys have sold us out. I'm switching parties or whatever. Well, switching parties wouldn't do it, but I'm going conservative instead of voting with these globalists.
Well, I tell you what, it's happening on two sides of the aisle, but anybody that is in favor of this thing is you're right, Senator Black, is a complete sellout of the U.S. worker, no question. Look, we're out of time. We want to thank Senator Dick Black for being with us. You want more information? He is in a re-election campaign, former Marine, served in Vietnam. Senator Dick Black, here's all you have to do. Go to www.senatorblack.com, www.senatorblack.com. Senator, it's an honor to have you on, sir. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you very much.